Sir William Hamilton, born in 1730, was an avid collector of antiquities of Greek and Roman descent. The son of Lord Archibald and Lady Jane Hamilton, William joined the army at the age of 16, but left after his marriage to Catherine Barlow. In 1761, he became a Member of Parliament and was subsequently appointed British ambassador to the court of Naples. After the death of Catherine in 1782, he was introduced to Emma Hart by his nephew, Sir Charles Greville, and subsequently installed her in the embassy in Naples, later marrying her. Lady Emma Hamilton became an instant ally of the royal family of Naples and confidant of Queen Maria Carolina, sister of Marie Antoinette. On Sir William's arrival in Naples, he became fascinated with the excavation of archaeological sites and soon began collecting artifacts from local dealers, along with instructing that sites and tombs be re-excavated and opened in order for him to add to his illustrious collection. Sir William Hamilton's first collection of antiquities was sold to the British government in 1772 for £8,400 and subsequently housed at the British Museum in London. This included objects from both Pompeii and Herculaneum, which had been recently excavated, and, as soon as the collection was sold, Hamilton began to again acquire a new assortment of beautiful artifacts. The vases, mostly Greek and created at the height of the Athenian culture in the age of Pericles, 2,500 years before, had been excavated from the archaeological sites surrounding Naples. Sir William's second wife, Emma Hamilton, had gained increasing stature in Naples for performing what she and Sir William called the attitudes. Lady Hamilton would take on the dramatic guise of classical heroines and indeed heroes of times gone by and utilise her husband's collection of archaeological finds as props, which he would perform around. Engravings were made of all of these vases, Sir William's second collection, before they began on their ill-fated voyage back to England. With Napoleon's gains in North Italy increasing and the likelihood of the royal family of Naples having to flee, and on hearing that Nelson's veteran warship, the Colossus, was leaving for England, Sir William asked Nelson, who was residing in Naples at the time, whether his second collection of vases could be transported aboard the ship to make their journey to apparent safety at the British Museum. After the man-of-war, Colossus, was loaded with Sir William Hamilton's collection, she set sail for England on the 25th of November, 1798. After a brief stay at Lisbon, the warship left for her final part of the voyage to the English Channel. With the years of being in Nelson's fleet and with the increasing breezes, the battle-weary warship's timbers started to creak and complain from usage. When she went on a larboard tack, seawater poured through the opening planks at a rate of 2 to 3 feet in the bilge, keeping the seamen labouring at the chain pumps. As the wind strengthened, and on the 8th of December, Captain George Murray decided to put into the Isles of Scilly to ride out the inclement weather. His ship sailed through St. Mary's Sound and into the anchorage of St. Mary's Pool. The following day, a gale came in from the southeast, veering to the east-southeast. Murray ordered his men to let out Colossus's anchor rope so she would ride the storm more securely. He also took down the topmasts so the ship would have less resistance to the wind. Little did he know that the anchor rope was rotten and soon parted. With the 172-foot, 70-gun man-of-war drifting towards the rocks on the far side of the anchorage, He let go his small bower and then sheet anchor in an attempt to save his ship. Murray regretted lending Nelson his best anchor prior to the voyage, who was putting it to good use in Malta. Colossus continued to drag her anchors, and with the tide ebbing, she struck on the bank of rocks at 6 p.m. that evening. The shrieking wind veered again at 8 p.m, and by midnight, Captain Murray was informed the vessel's rudder had been ripped off her pintles. Throughout that night, the men climbed the rigging and secured a place above the now awash decks. In the freezing cold, they waited 5 hours till dawn and watched with relief as some small neighbouring boats came out to rescue them. The warship's stern had struck the reef and was starting to break up. The locals had a bonus to their Christmas as they salvaged as much as they could before the Colossus went to pieces. None of Sir William's cases of unique, rare Greek vases survived and were pounded to bits on the rocks as the holds of the ship began to disintegrate. However, a body was found which wasn't one of the crew. Admiral Lord Sheldon had died in Portugal, and his corpse had been loaded onto the ship during its stop there, to be later repatriated with his family in England. None of the men aboard the Colossus knew that Sheldon was on board, as a dead man as part of the cargo might curse the ship. When the Solonians found out, they placed the entire mishap on this fact. On the 22nd of March, 1799, Sir William, still in mourning for his treasured collection, wrote of Admiral Lord Sheldon to his nephew, Charles Greville, "His body, it can be no use but to the worms, but my collection would have given information to the most learned, and would have convinced every intelligent being that there is but one truth, and that God Almighty has never made himself known to the miserable atoms that inhabit this globe, otherwise than bidding them to increase and multiply, and to leave the rest to him." Again, on the 8th of April that year, Sir William continued that the collection was all of the best vases, and that, "I feel none will be recovered." In 1974, Roland Morris, who had been fascinated by the shipwreck since his childhood days, was commissioned by the British Museum to salvage the site of the Colossus after years of search. She was lying in a sheltered position, 40 to 75 feet down, embedded in sand and silt. In 1975, Morris and his team brought 35,000 sherds to the surface, nearly 180 years after the fatal wrecking of the ship, some of which were painstakingly restored and displayed at their final resting place of the British Museum. The long devastated splendour of Sir William's prized collection at last saw the light of day again, and the remnants of the vases which Emma, Lady Hamilton, had once performed around in 18th century Naples were finally landbound once more.